So we're talking about merging opposites
Mm-hmm.
and how merging those opposites into oneness is the key, or could be the key, to a successful quest.
Okay.
Why? Quest.
Okay.
Why is that? Explain.
Explain. So I think it all starts in the way that we experience the world.
Okay.
Right? And there's a lot of schools of thoughts. You know, that there's the Newtonian paradigm of thought, and we're going to get into that. There's
Scientific
aspect, and then the quantum paradigm. That those are schools of thought right now that really put this topic into perspective. But that's a lot of stuff that I'm still trying to get my handle on. But ancient cultures. And then this is kind of like the difference between Eastern and Western philosophies in the way that that they view nature and our relationship to nature. So as humans, we have always looked for answers in our environment. And when you look at the world, you know, through either the scientific method, which is, you know, observation and deduction, trying to make sense of things, testing things out, you stand back and you look at, wow, why is this like this? You know, why there's so many opposites. You have life and death. You know, you're born, and you eventually are gonna die. Those are opposing forces. You know, you got male, female, opposing forces. And you get this constant dance between the two forces on a regular basis, you know, because we experience it constantly, you know. In order to live, you have to consume. So this is an experience. This is what humans, like, this is what we experience on a regular basis, in our existence. And how do we make sense of that? How is it that to see that and not give it some kind of morality to it, right? It's very challenging.
I'm not sure I understand. I'm not sure that I follow why we have to put some morality into these forces that we observe. I mean, I think we do subconsciously.
No, not subconscious. Let me give you a perfect example of it, right? The concept of original sin. Okay. Right? What the concept of original sin is the idea that because a human Eve took an action and decided not to listen, you know, you are thrown out of the Garden of Eden, right? And the idea of the Garden of Eden from a, let's say, literal point of view or metaphorical point of view is a place in which that there is no duality. You know, you don't
know good from bad.
You don't know opposites. Everything, it's okay, you know. But when you experience that, when you go past that, now human beings are sinful. You know, that's the idea of sin, is that we are somewhat not, we weren't supposed to experience life in the dual terms. That wasn't supposed to happen. Ancient cultures, primarily primitive cultures, if you go into very Native American cultures, they don't see that duality in the world. They don't have the concept of original sin. What they see is they are part of nature and nature is a part of it. Right. And they always had to find a balance between the two, you know. And this is the concept that we struggle with, because it has been ingrained in our Western mind in particular.
When you say, let me just stop you for 1 second so I can make sure that I understand, because I want to make sure that this is, because this is a deep subject for a lot of people. I don't think a lot of people think about this stuff on a daily basis. No. I think it's something that, like you said, is just kind of part of our existence, and we just go with it. We go with the flow, you know? Yeah. So you're saying, when you say the nature, the Native Americans, is that what you're referring to?
Native Americans, just natives, and primitive cultures,
okay. they understood that we humans are one with nature. And so they understood that we have to take care of Mother Earth, right? Or Mother Nature. And so let me be good to the earth because I get from the earth. So it's like a give and take. It's like transactional relationship. Exactly. Okay.
So this is manifested in rituals when you kill the buffalo.
Yeah.
When you kill, when people, the bear sacrifice, in which the northern tribes were used to do a bear sacrifice, and then those sacrifices is what is called atonement, because you are taking a life, but you are doing it from the point of view of this is the reality of life, of consumption in order to live, but it's not about just mere destruction, So the duality aspect of life is something that we have to be aware of, because although it is outside in our environment, and it is something that we do experience on a regular basis. Again, we experience it in birth and death. We experience it in opposites of points of views. But most importantly, we experience it internally, because there is that nature aspect of us, and then there's that socialized aspect of us. And if we disregard one or the other, then we become imbalanced. And the idea about understanding that separation, that duality, is to go past it, right? And be able to make it as one. That is that is the concept behind nirvana. That is the concept behind Carl Jung's integration of all the parts of of your subconscious, is that whole, to see past the duality and see the oneness of it all.
Is that would that be similar to, just to keep it more on a practical level? Would that be similar to, and I'm just going to throw it out there. Is that similar to like self-actualizing? Because I don't think that you can, personally, for me, and I think I could probably speak for a lot of people that might listen or watch us, that's not something that we're always thinking about. It's not something that is like, oh, this is a moment for me to integrate what's going on. It's not going to happen. That's not what we do. Yeah. I mean, I don't do that personally,
It doesn't have realizations like this don't happen until either in two ways. Number one, either you're willing to really dive into that because you're curious about it, or until something really catastrophic happens to you that you have no choice but to confront it. And that's when you begin to see these realizations and then be able to move past it. It's not simple morality as just to say that we are born sinners. That's a simplistic way, in my opinion, to look at it, particularly in our day and age, in which we have more deeper concepts and more available techniques to understand our environment and their place in it. It's not as simple as just saying that we are sinners or saying that we are not from this place. It's more of understanding that this opposing nature of life is a reality, and our job is to understand it and then be able to travel in oneness throughout the truth. And this is what a lot of ancient cultures and ancient ways of thinking that kind of brought about, and that's what they did.
So that's what I'm trying to get at. Give me a practical example of how an individual would incorporate dual natures to make that oneness so that they can have a successful quest.
You mentioned the philosophy of flow, right? That Daniel Goleman talked about flow. Flow is a very Zen concept, right? About knowing the yin and yang within your nature.
Yeah, I believe he actually learned it from the Buddha.
Yeah, and the yin and yang energies within yourself, and living within that accord, within the balance of those two forces, those two energies within you. That's what flow is. That is a practical way of living. And how do you achieve that? Well, through meditation. This is the prescription, and the Buddhism says, you know, through meditation, the Noble Eighth Path, you know, to Christianity. Christianity is the perfect example of combining the two, you know, because the ultimate tenet of Christianity is love God with all your heart and all your mind, right? And love your neighbor as you would thyself. What that is a concept of realizing the oneness, right, that is within you and within the other. Because you have to love God above all, and whatever your concept of God is the total unity, is the Atman, is the all that stuff that all these religions talked about.
So without loving God or putting God first, you can't love anything else or anybody else.
Exactly, but God is
both.
But God is also, like, you know, a person is also the reflection on God.
Of God.
So that's the ultimate tenet of the Old Testament and the New Testament. You know, and then that's the part that is hard to do, because how do you love your neighbor? How do you love yourself? And how do you see yourself in others? In a place that you see so much turmoil and so much opposition and so much stuff. I mean, like, that is a
social awareness.
Yeah.
And I know that we're going to talk about that. And we have talked about it somewhat,
yes.
But that's,
but again, the idea is that, to me, this is the part of science that I really do and enjoy, because they have looked at a lot of things to realize the interconnectedness of things. You know, and how connected things are. You know, and we have come a long way in being able to deduce what we see and understand it and test it and either discard it or integrate it in many different aspects. But it's difficult to be able to say to yourself, there's darkness in me. It's really, really tough. That's a really, really hard thing to even accept, you know?
Right. So basically what you're saying then is, practically speaking, it's, this is the most simplest way that I could put this, is just to be able to, like, stop, be aware of the fact that, like, put it on the love God and that relationship and whatever. So be kind to others, and do unto others as you would do to yourself. Right.
Correct.
Is basically, just to sum this part up, is to say that that's how we will be able to get to that place where we understand the dualistic nature of things, and then to merge them into one.
That's
what you're saying.